Hi, hope you're doing well today. Linda here. This class is called Relief from Desk Posture, and it's going to be a short series of some exercises you can do to alleviate some strain you might feel on some of your muscles and joints when you've been sitting at a desk for a few hours. And I'm specifically going to be thinking mostly about your neck and head, your back, your hips, and a little bit of work for your forearms, which you might, if you're doing a lot of typing, you might experience some strain there. And this will be dynamic chair yoga. We will be sitting for quite a bit of the time, but then we will be doing some activities while we're standing. It might not be as active as some other dynamic classes, but take it at your own pace and do these activities as they suit your body. And the only things you will need is your mat and a chair, no other props for today. So I'm going to meet you over at the mat, change my screen over, and we'll start out sitting in our chairs. So I'll see you there in a second. Bye now. Ready to go? Start out sitting comfortably in your chair, sitting fully back with your bum on the chair seat, but without your back leaning against the back of the chair. Have your feet planted on the floor with your feet roughly outer hip distance apart so that you've got a nice comfortable tripod of your 2 feet and your bum on the chair, keeping you supported. And your hands and arms can rest down in your lap wherever you like. Keep your back nice and tall with its natural curves, your crown of your head up towards the ceiling. And as you start to breathe, breathe in, straightening up your spine, lifting up. And as you exhale, let the front of your body soften, coming down a little lower. And you may even think those words to yourself. As you inhale, lift up. As you exhale, soften down. And let's take a number of breaths here, just enjoying this breathing, thinking about our posture as we lift up and soften down. And let's just take 5 or 6 more breaths in silence, centering ourselves this way. Now from here, I invite you to bring your right hand up, curving it up so that it just gently comes to rest somewhere on the top of your head. And don't use that hand to pull your head over, just as a gentle invitation to bow your head to the side. And you may feel a stretch of your neck over on this side as you breathe into that for several breaths. And as you're doing this, you might also let your eyes look over as far as they can toward that raised arm. Without moving your head, just gaze over in that direction. And then when you're ready, lift your head back up, lower your arm, and switch over to the other side. Bow your head, gently stretching your neck. And letting your gaze look over to the side. And when you're ready, take your hand down, lift your head back up, come back up to a tall spine, and bring your arms down to the sides. And then start to very slowly lift your shoulders up, bringing them up as close to your ears as possible, but doing it so slowly that you can feel what all the muscles are doing. Notice how this feels in your arms, your shoulders, your back, your neck, around your collarbones. And bring, once you've brought your shoulders up as high as you can, you might pause here and then slowly, slowly lower them down. Don't let gravity help you do it really quickly. Just take your time coming back down. Once you get back to your starting point, just take a breath here, feel what that feels like now. And if it felt okay doing that action, then do one more slow shrug. Pause at the top and then slowly lower down. Oh, move your shoulders around a little bit. Notice how they feel now. Now lift up your left arm, and you might have your right hand just tucked or holding on to the side of the chair seat. Lift up and over, feeling a stretch along your side body here, and maybe extending your breath as you stretch out these ribs, creating a little more space. And you'll know for yourself how far to lean over and how long to hold this. And when you're ready, switch over to the other side, tucking your hand in where you like. Feeling that stretch along your second side of your ribs and sending your breath over there. And coming back up to your starting point, bringing your arm down, setting your arms down. Maybe take a breath here as we prepare to stand up and make your way up to standing. Turn your chair so that you've got all four legs of your chair at one end of your mat and stand in front of that chair. Standing up tall, inhale your arms as you breathe up, bringing them up. And then as you exhale, hinge at the hip, bringing your hands down onto the chair seat. You could also use fists or hold on to the side edges of the chair. And from here, step back onto the balls of your feet and bend your knees enough to allow you to wrap your tailbone down towards the back of your knees. Tuck in your chin and dip your head to look down at the floor. Let your back round out, broadening across the middle of your back in cat pose. And then as you inhale, lift up your tailbone, drop your belly down, lift up your chest and head, looking forward, coming into a back bend in cow pose. Go back and forth between cat and cow, lowering your tailbone and lifting it up. As you come back into cat, try and do that on an exhale. And then inhale up into cow, going from a rounded back to a back bend. Let's do 2 or 3 more cycles of this in the timing of your own breath. And finishing in cow. And then just step your feet forward, coming to stand with your feet flat and having your palms on the chair seat. Now from here, I'm just going to come closer so that you can see what I'm doing with my hands. So I'm going to move over and bring a stool in closer, but you can stay at your chair and just watch for a second. You might stand up while you're watching. Good. Set your hands down on your chair seat and press into your 4 fingers and the band of knuckles that attaches your fingers to your palms. And just leave your thumb neutral. It doesn't have to be pressing in at all. This exercise is going to benefit your wrists as well as your carpal tunnel area of your forearm. So as you keep pressing into those knuckles and your 4 fingers, lift up the heel of your hand and lift up your thumb at the same time. Your thumb's not doing any exercise. Lower the heel down. Now we're going to try and do 8 to 10 of these palm raises. So if you're feeling like there's too much weight on your hands, you can step back or just lean back. That will take some weight off your hands. Or if you want there to be more weight, you can step closer, putting more weight on your hands. So I'll leave that to you to judge where you should be. And continue on with your palm raises, plus pressing those knuckles and fingers down. Just a couple more. And then as you lift up your hands, give them a nice shake, your fingers and your wrists. Now I'm just going to move back to going over to my chair seat. So I'm going to move the stool back out of the way and go back and meet you over there. All right, here we are again. So the next thing that we're going to do is turn the chair to the side, keeping it on the mat, and hold on with the arm that's closest to the back of the chair. Step back so that you can just reach that standing up upright. And then holding onto that chair the whole time. Lift up your foot that's closest to the front side of the chair and bring that foot, sole of your foot, onto the chair. And then you might slowly inch that foot forward, bending your knee, but making sure that your knee doesn't go in front of your ankle. And as you inch forward, you lift your back heel off the floor. Keep going until you come into a good stretch position. You're doing a lot of flexion in the outer hip of the leg that's raised. And you're also at the same time stretching your front hip flexor on your back leg. And to do that a bit more, you can lower your heel a bit closer to the floor, straightening that back leg, and just hold this for a few breaths. Keep your back long and neutral so that you're just going to be gazing down and out with the angle that you have in your back, just keeping your neck as an extension of your back. And then after a few breaths here, press into your front foot, pushing back so that your back heel comes back down onto the floor. And keep going back until your front toes Come up off the chair seat and just your heel is down and straighten this top leg out. Lift your back up nice and erectly. Take an inhale and then on an exhale, hinge at the hip, leaning forward. And this is a pretty small movement until you start to feel a stretch along the back of your hamstrings. And you can just let this hand rest on your leg or wherever you like and hold the stretch for several breaths. And then inhale your way up to standing, still holding onto the chair. Slide this foot over and bring it down onto the floor. And now you might just turn your chair around to be able to do the second side like this. I'm going to move my chair down to the other end so that I can still face towards you as I do this. Stand back, just holding on to the edge of the seat. Stand up nice and erect and lift your foot that's closest to the front up onto the chair seat, starting to lean forward to bring that foot flat, and then wiggling this foot forward, making sure to check that your knee doesn't come in front. Try and have it right above your ankle. And you come up onto the ball of your foot on your back foot. Keep your back nice and long and neutral as you feel this stretch in different areas of both your hips. And you might stretch your heel of your back foot down towards the floor. Continuing to hold on to the chair back and maybe resting your other hand on your leg or your knee somewhere. Just a little support for your upper body if you do that. Take a few breaths here. And then start to push back with your upper foot until your back heel comes down onto the floor. Keep going back until these toes on the chair lift up and you can straighten your leg. Lift your back and head up as well. And take a breath here, inhaling as you're upright before exhaling to hinge forward slightly until you feel a stretch along the back of your leg. Let's stay here for several breaths. Now inhale to hinge your back upwards again so you're standing upright, and then slide this foot back down onto the floor. Awesome work, everybody. Now I'm just going to move my chair right off the mat for a few minutes at this point. Come to stand in mountain pose. So you're standing with your hips, heart, and head stacked right above your ankles, and your feet are roughly inner hip distance apart, parallel to each other. And find what's comfortable for you for standing. You may have your feet wider or your toes turned out a little bit as well. And starting from this point, as you look straight forward, take an inhale. As you exhale, start to hinge at the hip, letting your shoulders and head come forward, letting your back start to round as you slowly roll your way down. Coming to a halfway forward fold with your hands on the top of your shins and your back flat and parallel to the floor. And some people might just go this far and not go down further. That's fine. If you feel okay lowering down, let yourself come down into kind of a ragdoll position. Let your fingertips touch the floor. And it's okay here to have your feet wider to give room for your belly to rest on your legs. and to have your knees bent as much as you need to. Come back up to halfway with a flat back, and then release down, lowering the top of your head down close to the floor or pointing towards the floor. You might sway a little from side to side. And maybe turn your head so that your chin and eyes point towards one upper arm and then the other, a couple of times on each side. Then press into your feet, bend your knees, slowly roll your way back up, keeping your head down until the very end. And as you bring your head up, roll your shoulders back, broadening across your chest, and reach your arms out as you stand upright. Take a breath or two here, regaining your proper blood pressure and broadening across your chest. And you can let your arms float down to your sides whenever you like as you keep breathing here. Now step your feet out wide with your toes turned widely out, coming into a wide stance, bending your knees. And you could have your hands on your legs or out to the side, coming into goddess pose. See if you can pulse up and down, bringing your thighs a little more parallel to the floor. Maybe you can lean over to one side and then the other a couple of times, noticing that this part of your body is really powerful. And maybe you can lift up one heel, put it down, and then lift up the other heel, put it down. And then some of you may be able to try lifting up both heels at the same time. Firm up your legs and pull your heels towards each other as you do this. And then lower back down, pulse down, and then press into your feet. Blast your way up, bringing your arms up, coming into star. Pull your legs towards each other like you're closing a pair of scissors, and pull your arms together the same way. And at the same time as you're pulling in, press down into your feet and lift up through your entire spine, out the top of your head. Lift your fingertips up. Star pose. Pulse back down to goddess. Bringing your arms down, your palms to touch below you, and then reaching over to the side with your fingertips. Straightening your legs out as you come up, drawing the biggest circle you can manage, all the way up, over to the other side, down. Do one more circle going in this direction. Straightening your legs as you come up, and then bending into them as you come down. And now 2 circles in the other direction. Finishing off, pointing down at the bottom again. And you might bring your hands back onto your legs. Use the support to pulse a little bit more, maybe coming down even lower. And then press into your feet, straighten your knees, come back up to standing. And you might heel toe your feet. This gives a little extra work to your ankles, or you can step your feet together. Keeping your feet a good distance apart, that you can bend your hips and your knees as much as you want to, swirling your hips around. Maybe like you're swirling a hula hoop. Do several of these. Or another thing you can do is swirl your hips sort of like a figure 8. So you can suit yourself whether you do one of these or a combination of both of them, just moving your hips around as you need to. Now we're going to bring our chairs back onto the mat and sit down. Imagine that you have a pencil on the top of your head and sit with your bum firmly on your chair, your feet planted on the floor, outer hip distance apart, your back erect, and the crown of your head pointing up towards the ceiling. And your pencil on top of your head has the eraser touching your head and the point pointing up to the ceiling. And you can just let your arms rest where you like. Now imagine that you're drawing circles with your pencil on the ceiling and start to circle your head. And I like to think of small circles like a toonie or a softball as I circle around a number of times in the first direction. But you can make your circles whatever size feels good to you. I find this incredibly calming, good for your neck. You might even float your eyes closed. And whenever you're ready, you can go in the other direction. And you may keep going like this. You may experiment with different shapes. You may switch directions back and forth one or two times. Just continue on as feels good to you. And then think about spending a few breaths going back to your breathing. Lift up, soften down as we started with. Reaching your torso tall as you breathe in, letting the front of it soften and sink down as you exhale. Lift up, soften down. You may stay here breathing as long as you like. This wraps up this yoga clip for today. I hope you enjoyed it and we'll come back to it anytime you need to. Have a great day. Bye now.